Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing alternating maces and some relationships between it and other techniques in the American Kenpo system. So now when we say relationships, don't think family groupings. That's not what the point of this is. And don't think that we're going to go through the entire thing. This is just different avenues that you can explore with different ways that you can look at how to relate this technique to other techniques. Okay? So let's start out with this scenario. The person is pushing us for alternating maces. We do this distance matching. We check on top, do this punch and this back knuckle. Okay? So for any scenario, we can make changes to it, right? That makes it very easy. One of the quickest ways to do this is through opposites. Okay? We do opposites and reverses. That's one way in which we can deal with this. A big idea in Kenpo is opposites and reverses. So in this case, let's talk about opposites from two perspectives. There's my perspective and his perspective. Okay? So could we make changes to ourselves? Yes, and we will do that. Can we make changes to our opponent? Yes, and let's start out with that. So let's look at this scenario, and we're going, okay? The person's stepping forward with the double punch with their right foot forward. Let's start out really easy and start at the bottom. The quickest way to do an opposite here is for them to switch their feet. Cool, okay? Can we still do alternating maces? Yes, we can. But keep in mind, this is a relationship video, so we don't want to continue just with alternating maces, so how can we deal with this? Well, we can change what we're doing to completely change how we're dealing with this attack, and we can do something like in aggressive twins. Okay, so that's simple. We had them switch their feet. Okay, we're done with the bottom part. Let's throw in that big concept of opposites again and move from the feet to the hands, which is the opposite end of the body. Okay, so they're doing this double push again. Okay, the way to think about this is they're doing two pushes at the same time, right? They could either be doing one, or two. So left, right, or both together. So let's make a change up here. Since we have the feet switched, let's go into just doing the left. Okay, so the person's going to do the one. Okay, so we start out with snapping twig as a good way to segue into it. You may ask yourself, could I still do alternating maces? You could, but angle of incidence is off, so it's not really the best way to do it. It's much better with the right foot forward. So a better alternative in this case would be something like a snapping twig. Okay, so that's with the left. Well, let's switch it over to the right. They're doing a single with the right. Could we do alternating maces yet again? Not really. Again, we don't have that angle of incidence. So what could we do? Well, let's throw in, remember we said opposite and reverses, let's throw in a reverse here too. Up to now we've been stepping back. We could also step forward. So that's what we're going to do in this next technique and how to relate it. So a better way to do this is to change that angle of incidence from down here where the center line is pointing this way is to where the center line up here is facing us, and that would bring us into something like a triggered salute. So rather than trying to go down here low and then high, just go directly high. And instead of stepping back, step forward. Okay? So I hope that all makes sense to you. So let's make another change here. Let's talk about where we are in relation to our opponent and make a couple changes to ourselves. So up to now, we've been between the hands or on the center line. So alternating maces starts on top, but then ultimately is between. But so are all these other ones. Okay? So can we move this to the outside? Yes. Again, we can pull in yet another opposite, and let's now move to the outside here. So let's start out with this left again, and I could do shield and sword. And you can say, okay, well that's a left and a right. Can I do it with just a left? Yes, I can. Can I do it with a left and a right? Yes, I can. Okay, so that brings in the idea that you don't necessarily have to do something different because there's changes up here. You can still do a relationship outside of just making the changes up here. So we've done the left side, let's do the opposite and do the right side. And let's do this again. So this would bring in something like a circling the horizon. Again, let's take a look at these hands. He did it with two. Could he done it with one? Yes, he could have. And you can say, that's not really the ideal phase of circling the horizon. Circling the horizon, the ideal phase is it's an in-flight major, not an in-flight minor. So all you're doing really here at this point is just changing the intent, but you're still doing this circling the horizon off of either a minor or a major or one or two at the same time. Okay? So let's make just one more small change here. We've been talking about left and right together. We can make one more alteration on this for timing's sake. So in this case, what if they did a left and a right? Could you do alternating maces? No, not really, but what could you do? Something like a snaking talon. And you would go, well, that's not the ideal phase of snaking talon. Snaking talon is off both at the same time. So that shows you that yes, just like earlier, we can do things differently based upon some changes or some things staying the same. So I hope that brings in all this timing differences here, left, right, right, left, left with right. So up to now, we've been doing one specific thing. We've been talking about making changes here to the upper and lower part of the body, but we haven't talked about anything vertically. We still have a vertical orientation. So what does that mean? We have 3 zones, high, middle, and low zone. Up to now, we've been dealing with pretty much everything to that middle zone. What happens if they go to the upper zone? Well, this makes changes to things that we're going to be doing, something like a heavenly ascent or even a thrusting wedge. So the idea is to intercept it just like we're doing previously with like triggered salute and some of the other ones, but now we're going to do it by going at them both at the same time and high, which then forces us to be below what they're doing. Okay? So let's flip it again. One more last time to flip it. So now they could be going low, like they're coming at us for something like they're trying to grab something out of our pocket, or we have a gun here and they're trying to grab it. But now they moved it to the low zone. Remember those 3 zones, high, middle, low. We've done the middle and the high, let's deal with the low. So in this case, rather than being underneath, we're going to be on top. And that brings us into something like a fatal cross, or even something like a hooking wings. Okay? So notice we stayed on top on this one, and on the other ones, we started underneath, but then once we were able to control the hands, we were able to get into a zone where we're both pretty much equal. But the same idea is obeying that rule of getting the upper hand. So now let's review everything very quickly. We talked about changing the height zones. We talked about changing the zone of action and the timing. And then we talked about changing their feet as opposed to just the hands. Hope this video helps you understand the American Kenpo system just a little bit better. Thank you very much.